could you type in the link for Helen? Okay, thanks. And if you, it looks like most of you have logged in, but if you can just get to your mail, and about in a minute we'll get started. So we'll get started. I think we're pretty cool after 9. Thank you for coming. We appreciate that we have a few more here today than we did on Monday, so I think this must be a little better time for people to come. We do want to say we are recording this, so that's why the camera is here. So we'll just be sharing the screen. So just if you do ask a question, you may end up on the recording. That's all. I just wanted to give you the heads up. I'm just going to share my screen. So we are doing a Google Hangout, and you all have access to Google Hangouts with your account, sorry, let me just do this. I can't talk and do it all at the same time. There we go. So you do have access to Google Hangouts as with your college account, with your Google account. Specifically, this is set up as a Google Hangout on air, which means it's being recorded, and we've linked up our Google account. We have an ETC account, and we've linked it up to a YouTube channel. So then as we do these sessions, we record them, and then it automatically goes to our YouTube channel, and then the video is there. So later on, you can access this. You'll be able to see the exact same thing. We'll have it up on our channel. And we'll post that link. You can link to it from our ETC website, which is on the Olds College website, but we'll be sending out those links and reminders. And we're also going to be putting on videos of like how to do things in Moodle, how to do things in Google, like kind of short 1-minute clips of how to do some different things. So we're just in the process of building some of those. So if you kind of check back every once in a while, we'll have some different sessions posted up there. Okay. So today, what I want to show you with this is we're going to go through mail. If you were in the session kind of when we did the migration, I'll show you some similar things that we talked about then. I'll show you a few more things, a few more tips and tricks that we've discovered. But I also want to show you that everything that I'm going to talk about today, if you forget, like, oh, she talked about filters, how did you do that? Or talked about labels, what was that again? You can Google all of this. None of this is top secret information that we had to go for top secret training. Basically, we have been all self-taught in this. We've just spent time and clicked and played and watched videos and read blogs and gone through all of it. So it's all out there. All the information is there. And if you're not sure what kinds of questions to ask, just type it in as a question. So when you go to the Google search, and we'll actually have a session later on how to do Google searches, but if you're like, there's a question there. How do I set up my inbox in Gmail? That was the question we had talked about in the session on Monday. You can actually type it in as a question, and you're going to see a whole bunch of things come up using filters, how to do this, how to do that. So Google's really good about you can just ask it a question, and away it goes. Okay, so that's something that we wanted to encourage is don't feel that you have to come. We're glad that you came. We're glad that you're getting some support on this, but that's a good place to start is ask those questions first to Google and see if you'll be able to come up. And then if you still can't find it or if you're just not sure what kind of question to ask, then definitely please come. George is the tech mentor for Google, and he is in the land science building, but he's not just for land science staff. He's for the entire Olds College staff as the Google mentor. So you can contact him. You can contact any of us in the ETC department as well. So there's definitely lots of support if you have some specific questions and you're not able to find what you're looking for. Okay, so we'll go back to mail. Oops. And please feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions. We'll kind of walk through what's the default, and then kind of move through as you can make some changes. Google is great. You can really make it personal how you want your inbox. How you can make it just the way you want it to look, but you can also make it do different things depending on what kinds of emails that you're getting. So the default that comes in is there's these tabs across the top. So primary, social, promotions, updates, and forums are all of them. You can pick and choose of these which ones that you want, if it works for the kinds of emails that you get. Now, if you get, so primary would be emails that come directly to you, addressed directly to you, or you're part of a group. Social would be if you are a part of, say, with Google+, Facebook, Twitter, those kinds, like a social forum, if you're getting updates and emails from those kinds of websites. Promotional things might be if you sign up for, if you're involved with any like sales or marketing, or you kind of signed up for maybe some blogs or some newsletters, they might come to that tab. Updates, again, it kind of depends on the kinds of things. This is where we seem to be getting when someone shares a document with you, or if you're involved in any sort of Moodle courses, you might get updates, you might get emails through there. And then forums are if you are involved in any sort of discussion forum. And again, some of your Moodle posts might come through there. Now, what I find, though, is that, especially with some of how Moodle is sending them, sometimes they go to primary, sometimes they go to social, sometimes they go to updates. It seems like even though they're all coming from Moodle, Google sometimes doesn't know quite where to put them. And you might find that you might get some emails from one person sometimes show up as primary, and other times they show up as updates. So you might find this works, or you might find that Google isn't quite sorting them the way that you want it to. And that seems to be a common thing, that tabs, they work fairly well. For someone like Joe Gunther, he gets lots of automated updates from different servers and cameras and things around campus. He said they work great. They go straight to his updates tab. He can check on them every day or once in a while whenever he needs to check them. So he said those filter great. They work exactly how they're supposed to. I found my emails didn't quite filter the right way. So I didn't really like the tabs. I decided to try something else. So we can then go into, so this little gear, this little settings, I've seen some people say it looks like a flower, some people say it looks like a gear. We're going to be going back and forth to that quite a bit today. So in there you'll see you can change your display density. I can't, if I change these, it doesn't make a difference on my screen because I'm hooked up to the projector. But the comfortable, cozy, compact is just how it spreads out your emails if you like them tight to put more on the screen, or if you want to spread it out with more white space. So just to kind of, sorry, to backtrack a little bit, if you decide you like the tabs, but maybe you only want to use 2 or 3, you can go to Configure Inbox, and then you can turn off the ones and turn on the ones that you like. So maybe primary and updates, it works. You only need those 2. You decide if you want to use those. Or perhaps you want to only use, maybe you want to use a different combination. It's entirely up to you. All right. So let's lower that. Because where I want to go now instead is if you go into your settings. Now this opens up lots of different options. We're not going to go through all of these tabs this morning, but the ones I wanted to show you first is, let's go to Inbox. So the default is just like I showed you with all of the tabs across the top, and we've had a lot of people say, well, I want to make it look like Outlook. I still want it to look like Outlook. I want it to kind of work like Outlook. How do we do that? So probably the easiest place to start is what we're used to in Outlook, was that the unread messages went first. So everything you haven't read, because if you leave it as the default, it's going to sort it all by date order. So even if you've read a message, haven't read one, read a message, haven't read one, it's going to still leave it in that order. And if there's messages you haven't read yet and you get lots more, they're going to be down at the bottom and you're not going to see them anymore. So it may be a good habit to get into is putting your unread messages first. Then you're going to have a block at the top with everything you've read, and then everything else that you haven't read will then, or sorry, everything that you haven't read will be at the top. Everything you have read will go to the bottom. That's just a simple way you can split them up. So then as new emails come in, they'll always go to the top, and then you know you have your unread section at the top. You can then even take it one step further, and there's a thing called this priority inbox. And it gives you options then of what you want these to be. So now you can change this. You can have important and unread, or you can just have unread messages, and we'll talk about what important messages are here in a minute. If you decide to star your messages, you can do that. So you can have some options then of what kinds of boxes, what kinds of sections you want to have. For example, it was Rochelle Reese in the Vice President's office. She wanted emails from Jason to be at the very top. So she wanted her ones from Jason, and then her unreads, and then everything else. So we were able to set that up. You can have it so that emails from a certain label will go to one section, and then your unreads, and then your importance, and everything else. So there's lots of combinations that you can do. So if there's emails from certain people that you want to have in a certain section that are separate from all your others in your inbox, we can set that up. So you can really personalize this to the kinds of emails that you're getting, who they're from, and where you want them to go. So that priority inbox is the one that kind of gives you the most flexibility in how you might want to organize it and have it set up. Okay, there you can also then show in each section how many. So maybe you only want to show the top 5 emails. Maybe you want to show all the way up to 50 emails. So if you're finding that you have a lot of emails in your inbox and you're kind of forgetting there's more and more pages, you might want to go in here and change this to the maximum number. So then you see a whole list of emails rather than only maybe 5 at a time. So you can definitely personalize that. Then as you change these, so if you decide you wanted to do just unreads first, you'll see these options change a little bit. So there's specific settings for whatever inbox you decide to use. Now if you decide to go back and forth and you want to try priority inbox and then unread first and you want to switch these, you are not going to lose any emails. They don't disappear. They're just going to be organized in a different way. So don't feel like you have to set one and leave it. You might want to try one for a few days and then try another one and then see how it kind of fits the kind of emails that you're getting.
So if you have more than one Gmail account and you want them to be together,
yes, we can help you.
They have to all be the same?
No, you can forward you can take another email account and have it come into your Olds College account, and we can help you set that up. Yeah.
But if you are doing that, then you can't set up separate inbox settings for those email addresses within one session.
Yeah. But you can put your calendars together and not your emails?
Well, and calendars will be, yeah.
That's next week.
Yeah. But yes, you can have multiple calendars too. Yeah. Okay. So again, it's just kind of best, I think, if you just play around with it, see what works the best, see what fits the kinds of emails that you're getting. I've had some calls with people that they're trying to make it, they want to try something, they're not really sure. Just play around with it. We try different things, and sometimes you might be surprised with what Google actually might be able to do with your inbox. What you want to try to aim for, the blogs and things that I've read, is they always kind of look for that inbox 0, where you want to try to get so that you don't have tons and tons of unread messages, or even leaving messages that you've read in your inbox. So one way that you can help with that, I'm just going to go back. I didn't save my changes. And that's something that you do have to, I'm just going to put unreads first, is that if you do make any changes here, make sure you go down to the bottom and hit your Save Changes button. So now you'll see I have 1 of 25 of about 84 emails. So there's my everything else's that I've read. So I can tell which ones I've read because they're in, sorry, the ones I haven't read are in bold. The ones I have read then they go back to just regular text. All right, the other thing that people ask about is,
were you looking for the Google section?
yeah, come on in. Yeah. So another thing that people ask for is I want to be able to see this list of my emails over here on the side, but at the same time see the individual emails, because as I click on these, I see one, but then I have to go back to see the list. I want to read this one, I have to go back to see the list if I want to see what else is in there. Another option that Google has for you, if you go back into your settings, that can help you make it look like Outlook, is if you go into your labs. And what labs are, it says it's some crazy experimental stuff there at the top, but it's really just features and functions that they're still kind of in testing mode before it becomes an official feature. If you're using stars, which used to be like flags in Outlook, those used to be a lab, and now it's a permanent function. So eventually these things, if enough people use them and they work well, it may become a permanent thing. I guess as a lab, there's a chance they may take it out, but we haven't ever seen any of these disappear. So the one that you would want to search for, even if you just, it's called Preview Pane. Then if you decide to, and then you can always you can toggle back and forth, you can turn it on and off if you want to. If you enable this and save your changes, you can go to your account. It will now bring up the option. There's a little tab up here at the top. You're going to have to turn this on. I had this on before, so it remembers it. You can do no split, vertical split, or horizontal split. So if you pick vertical split, it should then change it. So now you have the list of all your emails on the side, and then your individual message is right there. So as you select these, I can still now see the list of my emails. I haven't lost that, but then I can also see the messages at the same time. So then I can choose this one. I still haven't lost my list, but I can still read the email. So between those two things, doing the unread first, and then having your unread section, and then everything else, and then turning on that preview pane, that really seemed to make it kind of look like what we were used to with Outlook. A lot of people, this seemed to they like the look of this, the function of this. It kind of made something back to something a bit more familiar.
The caution against using the preview pane was pretty high in the whole, if there's a virus out there that is going to grab your system or whatever, the preview pane was supposed to allow it to get into your computer. So that's not an issue anymore.
I don't think so. I think because as soon as it would be no different than just opening just the email.
Usually the viruses don't necessarily come just through the email. There'll be an attachment that creates the virus on your system. So if you're previewing it, as long as you don't open the attachment, you're still okay.
Yeah. So that's why if you get an email from someone with an attachment and you don't know it and it looks suspicious, you can if you happen to preview it, you should be okay. It's the attachment itself that you don't want to open, and you should just delete it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be. So this is kind of the setup, just the look of your inbox. But we want to go a little bit further and help our inbox, help us sort our emails, figure out where our emails are going. Because right now, if I get emails, they're just going to go into the unread section, unread section, unread section. There's going to be nothing that's going to sort them out for me. So over here on the left-hand side are your folders, or labels. Sorry, folders are what they used to be called in Outlook. This is what we're going to call them labels now in Google. Really, they have the same function. If you wanted to take one of these, drag it over to the side, you can drop them in just like you could before. But the main difference between them is just like if you had a piece of paper and you wanted to file it in a folder, you would take that one copy, you would put it in a folder. If you wanted to put it in multiple folders in your filing cabinet, you would have to make copies of all those pieces of paper and put them in multiple folders. That's how Outlook functions. How Google functions is you can take, if you think of this piece of paper as an email, instead of making and putting it in multiple places, I can now label it with a whole bunch of sticky notes. So that's what these labels over here on the side are just how I'm going to tag my emails so I can keep track of them. So to get into what your labels are, you can access them from your settings. Go back into there. So there's a labels tab. And it shows you the ones that you have. These are the defaults that come with your account. Now, if you migrated over, you would have brought all the folders with you that were in your Outlook from before. This, I just have it as the bare bones. There aren't any extras in here right now. You can show and you can hide some of these. You can also move them, because if I click on more, I can see there's some things down below. So there's kind of this light gray bar here in the middle. That separates kind of the more and the less. So if you find that you're really not using some of these, maybe you don't really star any of your emails, you can click and drag. You can drop it down. You can move that down. If you want your all mail down here, you want it up at the top, you can drag that up there. So the default ones, you can just click and drag them, or you can hide them over here on the side. I would suggest moving your spam if it's down below that gray line. So I just clicked on that more to show what was down there. I would take the spam and drag it up, just in case you are getting some messages that even if they come directly to you, this spam filter, Google spam filter, is pretty good. And it may catch some emails. Like I've had people with Yahoo addresses. They've emailed me directly. They typed in my address, but it still went to my spam folder. So it's a good idea to take your spam, move it up, and check it every couple days just to make sure there isn't something that should be going to your inbox. If something does go to your spam folder, so for instance, like this was this was an invitation. This probably should have gone to my inbox. What you can do with this is if you go to more, oh sorry, I'm going ahead of myself a little bit. If you know it's just a one-time message, you can do not spam. Just click on not spam. It will move it to your inbox. But that's not a one-time thing, or sorry, that is a one-time thing. It is not going to remember to keep filtering out those messages. To do that, we have to set up filters. So I'm going to go back to my inbox. Let's go back to our settings. And we'll talk about filters. So filters and labels actually go quite well together. So your labels are where you're going to have, that would be all of your folders or your labels over there on the left-hand side. If you don't have any filters set up, you're going to have to manually move things over yourself. You're going to have to click and drag. You're going to have to put those labels on there. You can let Moodle do some of that work for you by setting up a filter. So what a filter can do is either it can attach labels to emails and they stay in your inbox, or you can say, as certain emails come in from certain people, automatically take them out of my inbox, move them over into whatever label I want to put them in. So you can do this right from scratch. You can hit edit. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. Create a new filter. You want to make one right from scratch. So from here, you would type in if it was from a certain address, or an email was always coming to a certain address, if it always had the same subject line. So if you know the specific details, you can create it right from there. You can just add the filter. If you know all that stuff, you can, if it has a certain attachment, it always comes in, you can tell it to go right to the side. We have some instructors that they've put in all of their student names in the from. They have this address or this address or this address or this address. Then as those emails come from those students, so from one class, they go to one label. From another class, they go to another label. So you can have it set with different departments. If you get emails from different people on campus, if you want those sorted, you can do that with doing your filter. So you can do it right from scratch, or if you go back to your inbox. So say with this one, so I know these emails, these ones are coming to all staff. Maybe I want to set up an all staff filter. So all of my emails that come to that all staff email address, I don't really want them going to my inbox. I'd like them just to go over here to the side. So what I can do is, once I see an email like, hey, I maybe want to filter those kinds of emails, I can, once I have it selected, I can go up here to more, and I can go filter messages like these. It's then going to automatically look for something in that email to see what I'm filtering it for. So you may have to help it a little bit. Maybe it was it was something, it was a subject line that you wanted it. Maybe Google thought it was the email address. So you might have to help it if it doesn't quite pick up the right things. I would suggest, so it says has the words allstaff.oldscollege.ca. I would also maybe suggest in the to section putting allstaff at oldscollege.ca. So any emails that come to that address and have the words allstaff.oldscollege.ca, Google is going to look for those in that filter. So then I go create a filter with this search. So then I have some different options. I can skip the inbox, so it doesn't even show up in my inbox. It goes straight to a label on the side. Or if I don't check this, then it will stay in my inbox, and it will be, so it will be tagged as inbox, and it will be labeled as all staff. I can star it if you like to use the stars. We want to apply a label, and I don't have one made up, so I'm going to do a new one, and I'm going to call it all staff emails. If you wanted to nest it, if you wanted to have it as a sub-label, you could do that. If I wanted to forward it, delete it. Now, never send it to spam would be if you saw an email in your spam folder that you wanted those permanently filtered in the future. So clicking not spam would take it that one time and move it out of your spam folder. Going through this process and saying never send it to spam would create a filter for that specific email address to never go to spam anymore. So if you want to mark it as important, not important, if there's any categories. And then if you click this also apply filter to matching messages, it will go back and look at old messages and find similar ones. If you don't check this, then it only is going to apply to emails coming in the future. So you can decide if you want it to work on old messages and new, or just new ones coming in. Create the filter. So now you can see these emails. I didn't tell it to archive it. I said leave them in my inbox. So now these emails that were all staff have the all staff email label on them, and they have the inbox label on them. If I had gone back into my filter, and now I can edit an existing one. I could skip the inbox and archive them. Apply this and filter to matching messages. If I update that filter. And it looks like now most of my all staffs are gone. They're not in my inbox anymore. They should all be in this all staff email folder. Just move them all over there. So now as I get new emails in that are addressed to all staff at oldscollege.ca, they won't go to my inbox because I checked off that archive it, skip the inbox. They're going to go straight over to this all staff email, and I'll see that number increase as they come in. So it's a good idea with emails that things that you don't need your immediate attention, but you eventually do need to read them. If you set up filters so that, or especially if you're the kind of person that, oh, I see an email, I have to respond to it. Oh, I see an email, I have to look and see what this is. If you set up those, rather than them going to your inbox, if you have them going over into these labels on the side, then at whatever time of the day you decide, okay, after lunch is when I come and read my all staff emails, or during my coffee break, or whenever you want to check those out, then you can decide when you want to do those. So you can do them with certain people. Maybe if you have a group of people and you're all using the same subject line, you maybe as a group you can decide every email has the same subject. Then those emails you could have skip your inbox and go straight over to your label. Now if you have emails with lots of labels on them, then you want to move them over to whatever label. You can just click and drag on them, or once you have one picked, so right now it has the inbox label. If I wanted to label this with inbox and something else, I could select the message, go up here to label it, pick which one I want to put it in. If I want to move it, which would mean take it out of inbox and put it in another label, I could do it from here as well, or just click and drag on it. Or once if I'm completely done with it, I know I never want to see this message again, I can garbage it, I can click on the little garbage can, which means delete. In 30 days, that message is completely gone. You don't have to worry about cleaning out your deleted items. After 30 days, they're completely gone. If you wanted to...
How do you go back in and retrieve something from a deleted file?
You can, we can go back in. And then if you wanted to archive it, archiving it means it's still existing in your all mail. So that's really what your all mail is everything you've ever sent, ever received that hasn't been deleted. So if there's an email that, well, maybe I want to keep this, maybe I don't, I'm not really sure if I ever need this again, but I don't really want to delete it, I don't want to put it in one of these labels over here on the side, then you might want to archive it instead. Then archiving it sends it to this all mail. If you do happen to delete something and you're like, oh, I need, you can then just go back into your trash. You can select it, and then you can tell it, you could just click and drag on it. I could just drag this and put it back in my inbox. Or if I meant it to go somewhere else, I could do it by labeling it or moving it. So you do have 30 days. If you did accidentally delete something, it isn't completely deleted. You should be able to click on it and drag it and move it back over. But after 30 days, it's gone.
So if you send stuff to all mail and then you're looking for email from Debbie Bailey, can you sort? Did I miss it?
No, we haven't got to that yet, but that's a good question. With Outlook, you could sort it by columns, so you could click on who they were from, the date, the size, all of that. With Google, it works a little bit different. Google Mail has basically the same search function, just like the Google search engine does. Up here in this top bar, you just type for, so maybe if you were looking for emails from Debbie Bailey, you would just start typing her name in this bar up here at the top. Or if you know that emails came from a certain date, there was a certain date of emails you were looking for, you could type that in. You can actually, there's a little arrow here, the search options. It then opens up and gives you that same filter box. And then you could type in, like, so it's like, well, I knew it was within the last 2 days. I can't remember who that email was from. You might want to say date within 1 day of today. Or if you know that it had a certain subject line, you can't remember the person's name, type in the subject and search for it. So they've built in the same, how Google looks through the internet for websites, they've built in that same function into your inbox. So you can't necessarily sort by columns, but you can sort by who did you send it to, who was it from, what day did it come from. You can tell it where to search. So if you know it was a message that you sent, you could say specifically search in my sent items to this address. So you can help it narrow down a little bit. If it was something that you know you trashed it, you may want to say check in mail and spam and trash. It was an email I know I deleted, but I wanted back, but I can't find it anymore. Tell where you want to search it. Okay. Another thing that I want to bring up that we've had a few people, either some people love it or some people, usually you love it or you hate it, is the conversation view. So back in the settings, and this is in the general tab, there is something called this conversation view. Now, if you do lots of back and forth emails with one person, you may or you may not want to have that turned on. What conversation view does is it takes all of the emails that you've had back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with a person, or with multiple people. It looks for, did you have the same subject line? Or did you talk about the same kind of a message? And then it's going to lump them all together. In some cases, it works well when you're having just a one-on-one back and forth conversation with someone. But if you send out, and I'm sure Fritz wouldn't mind if I share the story. Yeah. She sent out an all-student email saying that the doctor was in, you could book appointments, massage appointments. How many did you have returned?
Like within 5 minutes, I probably had 35 responses.
And she had her conversation view turned on, so all of those student responses attached itself to the original email that she sent out to all students. So we turned conversation view, so all of those emails then lumped into one line when she went back to her inbox, it showed up as one line in the inbox. If you turn conversation view off, all those individual responses back from the students would then be treated as individual emails. So if you do lots of, and you might want to, you can toggle it back and forth. You might want to turn it on to find and lump together all of your messages from one person. Then you might then want to go back and turn it off again so that all your emails are treated as individual emails. So in your inbox, if you have conversation view turned on, even if you had 37 back and forth messages, they're going to show up as one line. If you have it turned off, then you would see all 37 emails show up. Well, actually, you would only see the ones that you received. You would have to go to your sent folder to see the ones that you sent. If you have your conversation view turned on, it keeps your sent and your received emails all linked together. So it might be something you just want to get in the habit. I almost wish it was a button here on the front that you could turn it off and turn it off. You don't have to go into the settings and find it. Maybe we should send in a request as that as a lab to maybe see if we could get that to come on. But you may want to go back and forth with that. Some people find it's great because they like all their emails coming together. Some people hate it, depending on the kinds of emails that they get. So if you're finding that, well, how come all these emails why are they always together? Go in there and turn your conversation view off. We've had some people, that's been the one-click thing, and it has made a huge difference in how their emails come in. So something to keep in mind.
So a question on that. So if someone is in the habit of clearing their anything they've dealt with and deleting it, as opposed to archiving it or whatever. Like, it seems to me that a lot of the conversations I get into is, it was discussed in 3 emails ago, and we're coming around to it again. So somebody's obviously not linking the conversation or relating it to a previous banter back and forth.
Right.
So I'm just, how accessible are those messages? If someone is used to clearing off their emails, I'm just wondering if that's not a bad thing. Like, I know when we migrated over, you said there's no real need to delete emails anymore, but some people have that need to deal with everything and have an inbox blank.
Right.
So I guess that's
so and that's because with Outlook, when you deleted them, basically that was like archiving it, because Outlook didn't clean out your deleted items until you manually said yes, delete all of this. So some people did treat their deleted items like a file of place to store stuff that wasn't important enough to get its own label. So if that was the way you treated your deleted items in the past, you might want to start archiving things instead. And yeah, and your archived items, like, because we have so much storage now, you really don't need to worry about, unless you have huge attachments. And if you do, it's probably best to take those, save them anyways, and then maybe delete those if it is taking up a big chunk of your inbox space. But yeah, you might as well get more in the habit of just archiving emails if there is the chance that you ever do need to find that message again.
well, especially if I'm sort of the
Yes.
residual of all
Yeah.
antiquity kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah. So, and then you do also have to be careful with Conversation View that it will look for emails that have a similar subject line. Like I had an email, it was, I think Gordon had sent out an all-staff email, and then someone had replied back to me with the same subject line, and it attached, and I had my Conversation View turned on, and it attached their email to his all-staff email, which really weren't 100% related. So it may look for some things in similarity between emails when really you don't want them to. So you have to be careful that Google might try to link emails together that maybe shouldn't be too. So I haven't seen that happen very often, but it has. I've seen it happen a few times.
I had one that went out with an inappropriate attachment because the link was on.
Right.
Okay, never use the base of the previous.
Right.
Like a forward and then take the.
Right.
Forward.
Yeah. Okay, so any other questions, things yet that we haven't covered?
I like all this sorting stuff because that's the thing that's been bugging me. But if I created a certain label for a certain person or whatever, can I get a notification that I now have a new email in? Maybe it's not going to the inbox.
If you do get a new email coming in, you will see the number here go up. So if you've read everything in there, so this means I have 62 unreads in my all-staff email right now. If I went through and read, yes, the number beside it tells you the number of unreads. So if I go through and read them all, even reading just means I click on them quickly so it looks like I've read them, then the next time one comes in, it will then go bold and it'll have a 1 beside it. So either you have to remember what the previous number was, or make sure that you've always keep on top of them and read them, so that as you see a 1 pop up, you know it's a new one that's come in.
Is it possible to highlight, like if you search for a certain person and you come up with all their emails, is it possible to highlight them all at once without clicking them individually? And
And what do you like?
You used to be able to hold down like Control Shift or something and highlight a whole bunch and move them.
Yes, you can. Oops. Let's say I wanted to look for all of my emails from Amanda. Then if I click on this one right here, it selects all of them. Then I could take them and drag them into a folder or a label if that's what I was wanting to do. So that would probably be the only reason you'd want to select all of them, is either to delete them all, or to archive them all, or to move them all to a certain label.
To move them, do you have to move each one individually? Or?
Not if you select them all. So if I click this top one, see if now they all have check marks. If I click on just even one, click and hold and drag, you'll see it says I'm going to label 13. It's going to take all 13 now. Yeah.
And you can use the control key to pick and choose which ones out of the list if you don't want to move all of them. So you can hold down the control key and then pick several individually.
I think you can actually even just click. Yep.
So when I do that and I move them all into a folder, they still show up in my inbox.
Right. So rather than, if you did, and that was if you clicked and dragged them over. I wonder if
They show up with the name of the folder and then all of the information as well.
Do you get the move option at the top? Because if you moved them,
Are there different versions maybe? Is there different options?
well, once you have to select, once you select an email, then you should see more of these come up across the top. Let me just delete that out with this. So if I take, so once I start selecting these, I think it was because I had a specific search. So if I knew it was these 4 emails that I wanted to take out of my inbox and move, I could click and drag them. Or rather than doing, I think if you go move to, it should then, let me just move these over.
When I click a whole bunch of them, I lose that move to option.
Does it look like So when you click them, do you still see you don't have the move to and the labels? Is this bar up at the top empty, like your search bar?
No.
Was there something typed in that? Like this white bar up across the
Yeah,
top?
I have the person's name, then I have all the messages. And I want to move all of their
Right.
messages to a folder.
Because I noticed that too, that once I typed in the name, then all it did was let me label it.
There once it's,
And once select them,
no. So it's still-
that's interesting. Yeah, let's try. Do this.
No, it's just select.
We might have to look into finding a way to.
After the session's over, I'll go in and look at your settings.
Yeah.
See if there's something in there.
Because yeah, you're right. As soon as you type in the name, you lose. You can
No,
label
even-
them, but you can't.
Even when
Right,
she's,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. I haven't seen that question pop up.
So,
That's good.
so then, it would be in the settings to manage those to come into a folder or something automatically set it in that.
Yes. So you could go in and set up the filter so that in the future emails then would skip the inbox. But you might want to, instead of dragging them over, maybe go in and make a filter and then say archive these, skip the inbox, rather than trying to drag them over, because then if you tell it to, no, you could filter out past messages, and then once you've done that, then go in and get rid of the filter not to do it in the future. We might have to play around with that a little more. Help you with some of those. Okay, so those are the main parts of mail. I think with the Compose, we're assuming everyone's probably figured out how to send an email. In there, you can just hit Compose. The options are down at the bottom if you need to add any like formatting, if you want to add your little happy face. With Outlook, you used to be able to just to go colon, hyphen, and bracket, it would automatically make a happy face for you. Now with Google, there is lots of them. You can do all sorts. Some of them are animated. There's all sorts of little bling you can add to your emails if you like. When you do Compose, it makes this new message window that is meant to, that you can still see your other existing messages, you can see kind of the rest of this, but it's stuck, it doesn't move. If you, especially if you have two monitors, if you want to be able to move this around like from one screen to another, if you take this little double-ended arrow, if you click, sorry, if you shift and click, so hold shift and click on that middle icon, you now can move this box around. So with two screens, that makes a huge difference. That you can then have your entire inbox or whatever you were working on. So it was hold your shift key down. So bring this back up. Hold your shift and then click on the middle icon. Yeah. Yeah. So there's one thing you learned today. You now can move your message box around. Another question somebody had with that was once they start typing in, so if I send this email, George, and then I start typing down here, start putting my text here, the address part disappears. Google does that on purpose. It collapses that address bar. And someone said, well, I wanted to go back and add more addresses. If you just go back and click up here, the options come back. The CC and the BCC are over here on the side. So if there was somebody you wanted to CC, click on that, and then it allows you to add the names. So if I was going to add Stacy a message, I could put it in there. And then as soon as I start typing down here in the text again, it collapses that up. So you can always go back and forth. You can toggle back and forth to that. Yeah, and then all of the options to edit. If you need to attach an attachment, just like it was before, you just browse for it. You can add a Google Drive document, but if you are doing that, and we'll talk more about Drive in another session, make sure you have shared that document with the person. Just attaching it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to go in and view it. You still have to share it with them. You can add pictures, you can put in links, and you can add your little emoticons if you want. Now, Xing out up here at the top is not the same as deleting it. In Outlook, you used to be able to just close your message. It didn't automatically save it for you. As soon as you have this open for seems like 10 seconds, you will see over here on the side, this now counts as a draft. So just closing this, my draft is still there. So you may see, well, how come I have like 10 drafts? Where did all these come from? If you get in the habit of opening that box and then, oh, I didn't need to send that email, you hit the little red X at the top, that does not delete out your draft. So if you go into your drafts, you can look at them individually, or if you don't have these selected, there was a discard drafts button. I think because I have this one picked, that message disappeared. If you are in the middle of a message and you decide you don't want to keep this one anymore, you click the little garbage can down at the bottom, and that gets rid of your draft. So now you can see I don't have any drafts left. So that was a habit to kind of get over too, was just closing out the X does not delete out your draft. Also with your inbox, if you don't like the white background, those are the themes that you can change. So you can access themes right from the gear icon, or you can go into, if you happen to be in settings, you can go to themes. And here you can pick and choose if you'd like to have a certain color as a background. These pictures, the ones that have the little squares in the corner, that means every day you'll get a different picture. So the beach, you'll get a different beach picture every day. The ones that have the little clock in the bottom corner, that means at different times of the day you'll get a different picture. So in the morning it's a sunrise, at noon it's a nice sunny picture, in the afternoon it goes to a sunset. So there's some options there if you like to try those. The white and the dark corners tell you what the text color is going to be. So you'll have white text on dark, or dark text or white text. The little corners will tell you that. And again, you can play around with this. Maybe every day you want to have a different picture. It's up to you. You can upload your own picture if you like. If you go into custom, there are pictures there you can pick. Photographers have put in copyright-free pictures that you can use, or you can even upload your own. Or there's some other themes down at the bottom. So you definitely can make it unique to yourself. Offline is if you needed to do, especially if you did a lot of work where you needed to access emails when you didn't have an internet connection, if you flew a lot, or if you traveled, maybe you go to a cabin that doesn't have internet access, but you want to be able to read and respond to emails, you can work offline. It will save all of your work until you're connected back to the internet, and then it will send your messages for you. Labs, like I said, there was the preview pane in there. You could go in there and play around. There's lots of different things it can do. Maybe there's a function that, well, I wish Google could do this. Go into Labs and see if it's there. It might be an existing thing. Chat is if there is an instant messaging function, and we'll talk more about chat and Hangouts in another session. You do have to have it turned on. You do have to have it enabled before it will work. You can do just an instant messaging pop-up thing or Hangouts. Forwarding is if you wanted other email addresses. You could add a forwarding address if you wanted to forward your email on. We've suggested this to the students. We've told them to forward if they have another existing, if they come here to college, they already usually come with a Gmail or a Hotmail or another email address. We've shown them how to take their old college email and forward it on to an existing address. So that might be something if you're traveling and you only want to check one email address, you can forward your old college mail. Or if you're out of office, there is an out-of-office responder, but you might want your emails actually forwarded, especially if they come from a certain client. You might want those sent directly to somebody else in your department while you're gone. So you can have, you can set up labels and filters so that certain emails get forwarded, or you could have your whole inbox be forwarded to somebody else. So there's some options there. Accounts is if you wanted to add another account to come into your email address, you could do that. You can also grant access to your account. So if there's somebody here on campus that maybe should be sending emails on your behalf, if you have, or maybe you should be sending emails on behalf of somebody else, if you're a support person or if someone is supporting you, you can set that up so they have access to your email account. So again, that might be an option when someone's gone on a leave or on holidays. Maybe they could access, so their emails aren't forwarding to you, but you can send and receive on behalf of that person. So there's some options in there. And then I think general, I showed you the main ones, but yeah, just to have a look and see, you can change how many emails you see, you can change what your text is, conversation view, you can star your emails. That was what flags used to be in Outlook. but you cannot label them, unfortunately. Like in Outlook, you could say a blue flag meant this, a red flag meant that. Here you have to just kind of, you might want to make a note and put it as a sticky note on the side of your computer, or you'll just have to remember. You can then decide which ones you want. So if you only want to use 1 star, if you want to use 4, if you want to use all of them, and then you can click and drag these. If you're like, well, red means, to me that means this, I need to do this. If I click and hold and drag on it, I can change the order. Because then if I go back to my inbox and click on those empty stars, as I click, 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 it's going to toggle in this order. So it's going to go red, yellow, orange, purple. Oh, now I want blue. So then I just click through until I hit blue, or if red's the one I want, hit it once, red would be the first one.
And I haven't checked this, but can you view by order of stars?
You can tell it to sort by red stars, by blue stars. So up when you're back in your inbox, up here you put has, blue stars, and it will sort all the emails that have blue stars. And then there's a few other options. One thing I just want to point out, we've had this come up as a couple questions. Someone had turned on this send and archive, and he was saying, as soon as I reply to a message, they disappear. I can't find my messages anymore. He had turned on the show send and archive button in reply. So as soon as he would reply to somebody's email, his email would get sent out, and then it would archive the original email. He's like, oh, my emails are disappearing from my inbox. Where are they going? He had turned this off and didn't realize what it actually did. So if you do like to archive everything, and as soon as you reply, you want it out of your inbox, this might be a good thing to have turned on. If you want to keep your messages, turn that off. So that's another option. If you're somebody who likes to keep their email, their inbox nice and neat and tidy, that might be one you want to clean up. Your signature is here. There is on the Olds College website, if you go into the communications toolbox, they do have a template you can copy and paste and put that in. We do suggest you use it. They've done a good job of like using, it fits nicely in that box. If you just start to go in and type it, it makes it double spaced. Since they've made it, if you just copy and paste it, it makes it single spaced. They have it italicized, and you just go in and edit your phone number and title and your name. And then here is your vacation responder down here at the bottom. This only works from like midnight till midnight, whatever dates you pick. If you come back to work at noon, you are going to have to remember to turn that off. You're not going to be able to tell it at noon to automatically shut off. In Outlook, you could put a specific time of the day it turned off and on. In here, you're going to have to remember to do it if it's not just the next day. Okay, so that's pretty much the majority of mail. I want to just quickly go into your contacts. So again, mine is empty. This was a new account. It didn't migrate over. So I don't have anything in here right now. To create a new one, now Google is going to remember if you type in people's addresses and don't actually make them a contact, Google is still going to remember them and put them in as other contacts. Those may have come over. Outlook did the same thing, even if you didn't, and it was a setting in Outlook, even if you didn't say, make this person a contact, it remembered that address in the background. So when you migrated, you may have had like hundreds of emails come and say, how did these weren't my contacts, where did all this come from? They probably came in as other contacts. If you want to make contacts, you can just click on New Contact. You can just type in their name. And right here, I know my changes to George have been saved. So you don't have to worry about hitting save, his save button. It automatically does it for you. I'm just going to put another one in. So you can put in the information. Now there are ways you can export, like with V-cards and things like that, and we can help you out with that if you're getting V-cards from people and you want to import and export. You can. There's a kind of a couple-step process to do that, but you can. Once you start to get your list of people, if you want to star them, you can also make groups with them. So once you start selecting a couple people, you get this option here now that comes up that has like the 3 heads on it. When you click on that, you can now create a group. Become my ETC group. Once I've made a group, you'll see it comes up over here under your contacts. If I go back to my mail, and if I start typing in, well, this might take, oh, there it is. It takes a second. But now the group that I have made automatically comes up as a contact. So I can just type that in too. So if I know there's the same 5 people that I always email, put them in as a group. Then when you go to compose the message, all you have to do is just type in the group name, and then they get it. Now maybe there's a 6th person you need to email in this particular email. I could add somebody in here. Or maybe, well, I know George is on holidays. He's not going to be back by the time we need to deal with this. I'm going to take him out. I can delete it. So you don't have to stay with those same 5 people or whatever is in your group. You can edit and change that in particular situations. But if you just wanted to always just email the same group of people, make your own. There are the distribution groups that IT has control over. If you need to change those because someone has come or gone, please contact IT directly. And to be able to send to one of those groups, you have to be a member of that group. So if you are commonly sending, like if I wanted to send to the Con Ed group, I think I need to be a part of the Con Ed group to be able to send to it. So if you want to send out an all-student email, unless you are in the all-student distribution group, you won't be able to send to it. So you may need to contact IT just to find out who, and if you or whoever you need to be are in those distribution groups. Okay, so that brings us to 10 o'clock, pretty much on the dot. Hopefully that answered a few of your questions and gave you some ideas of things you might want to try. Please remember, like, YouTube is great. There's tons of people have made lots of videos about how to set up filters, labels. If you just Google, how do I set up my inbox in Gmail, you're going to find lots of blogs and lots of different sites. But that can be a place to start. If you're still not sure, if you have a specific question, I want it to do this, and you're not sure how to ask that question in Google, please contact George or anybody on our ETC department, and we can definitely help you out.
Just a quick note on those groups that Andrea was just talking about. Those groups carry over into other Google apps as well. So like next week, Monday at noon, we'll be doing calendars and tasks. And any groups that you set up in Gmail are available for, say, inviting to an event on your calendar. As well, if you're doing collaboration on Google Drive with Docs or Sheets, those groups appear there as well. So just a little.
So that's the nice thing with Google is your calendar talks to your mail, talks to your Drive, talks to all your apps. So once you set up a group there, it's in everything. So.
I'm noticing that, like the emoticon, the smiley thing, I'm getting a lot of J's as part of the signature. So
yes.
From Outlook, it comes in as a J, and it's actually a smiley.
Yes. Yeah. So you might see that. Just depends on. It's just the formatting from one email software program to another. So, and that's like, because in Outlook you used to be able to flag emails as important and put the little exclamation mark. Google has nothing built into it that can do that. So if you actually have to send an urgent, important email, in the subject line you might want to, you have to type urgent or time sensitive or whatever. So you have to, and use that sparingly, like don't put every email urgent because people won't believe you anymore if you're always saying your emails are urgent. But there isn't, and yeah, because there's different software programs, even if you sent it with Outlook with the little check mark, with the little exclamation mark, there's no guarantee that the person on the other end is viewing those emails in a form that could even see that. Outlook to Outlook, we knew you would see the little exclamation mark, but once you send it out to another email server, there's no way of knowing that they'll even see it. So it's not a foolproof way of, like it was in Outlook with the little exclamation mark.
So what's the percentage of people on versus Outlook versus Google now in the greater world? I know we're trying to incorporate it.
I think the majority of people here are using Google, but we do know there's some staff that have preferred Outlook, so they've stayed. And you still can use Outlook. We don't want you to feel that you have to use Google, that you have to torture yourself through it and you hate it and it makes you mad all day long. Then don't use it. Like, go back and use Outlook. But there are some functions that I think Google has that Outlook doesn't, and there's some functions that Outlook has that Google doesn't. So depending on the kinds of emails you send and receive, find the one that fits you the best. But yeah, don't feel like you have to torture yourself and use Gmail and you hate it and it makes your life miserable and like, yeah. So we can help you out if you've decided that you do want to stick with Outlook, and there is a way that you can sync up Outlook. So basically, your mail still exists in Gmail. It just shows up through Outlook on your computer. And you can use Outlook on any old college computers, but as soon as, and you would have to keep that same computer. If you went to your home computer, you wouldn't be able to see it through Outlook.
Yeah,
So
most of
that's,
my email is from external to the college, and I'm just trying to be aware of they may not be in a Google environment. So
Right.
what things do I see and
Right,
like
that's
these
right,
applications?
yes,
If they're picking it up on their Samsung phone.
see, and that
then-
shouldn't, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't really matter where they're reading it and what kind of email and what their server is on their end. Some of those things, though, like Happy Faces, may come in as J's just with the formatting.
Well, I was
issues,
finding
so-
that people weren't able to open documents that I had rolled up to a PDF. I'm thinking,
Mhm.
okay, maybe I have to.
And I think you have to be careful if you're
Yeah.
sharing them or if you're attaching them. There may be some issues with that because there's a difference between sharing and attaching.
Yeah, we're not
So-
using Google Drive. I was
Okay.
just attaching the PDF, and I thought maybe I have to save them as lower versions of the Adobe PDF
Yeah.
or something, because why is that happening?
Okay, good.
you.
All right, well, thank you very much. That kind of wraps up. If you do have some specific questions and you think you need some specific help, we definitely can help you out after, or you can set up a time and we can come and spend some time and show you some things. But I think that's kind of the main parts of Google Mail. So next week we will be doing calendar on Monday at noon, and then this same time Thursday at 9. So all the sessions are Monday at noon, Thursday at 9 for the next 7 weeks, I think. Except for the week of Thanksgiving, the Monday moves to Wednesday. So, and and we can resend the email if you're not sure of the different topics and all that. We can give you a refresher. We'll probably send one out halfway through to remind everybody the topics again. Okay, good. Thanks. So if you haven't, I'll see if I can bring that page back up. If you didn't, check in, if you didn't check in yet, please go to that website, goo.gl/26 uppercase W O uppercase LC, just so that we know who all came. And you can be expecting an email from us probably sometime today asking just for a little bit of feedback. Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming.
I want to be in my inbox.